everyone. Thank you so much for joining another PM Learning Series episode. My name is Shivi. I'll be the host for today. Please introduce yourself. Drop in the chat where you're joining us from. Also, I apologize for some technical difficulties. Our events have grown so popular that we're getting a lot of spammers who impersonated me. So it feels like I'm commenting, asking you guys to join through a hashtag. Please don't fall into the trap. Stay here, refresh your browser, and you'll hear from us. So without further ado, let me do some housekeeping. This is part of LinkedIn Learning's product management learning series. For those who are joining us from before, you know that this is a series of live streaming events where industry thought leaders and product practitioners share their PM career journey and lessons learned to inspire current and aspiring PM like you to level up your career. Subscribe to our newsletter, which has the link in the event description to receive recap of this event and future event updates. So today with me, I have a very, very special guest. Let me bring her up to stage. Hello, Marily.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. That you're actually not the first time that we're live. And I'm really, really excited to have this special session with you where you will share about your path and then giving advice mostly to aspiring PM or PM who wanted to pave a path to AI. Allow me to briefly introduce you. And you have so many achievements that sometimes I wonder, how can you do so much, right? So you are an AI product leader with over 10 years of experience in AI product management. You have worked at some of the most reputable companies, including Google and most recently Meta. And you're also an executive fellow at Harvard Business School. You are teaching a cohort class at Maven. You're a LinkedIn Learning instructor. You hold a Ph.D. in machine learning. You're a 3X TEDx speaker on Forbes 40 under 40 list, and you publish maybe more than one book. Tell us more about it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. The only difference is it's not Forbes, actually. It's the America's Greek Foundation. So not Forbes. Hopefully, maybe one day Forbes. So thank you so much. Yes, I always love talking about product management and AI. It's my passion. And what I have to say is that there's no traditional path. I haven't met anyone that has had a traditional path. So I'm happy to share my path, but by no means does this mean that you would need to follow anything similar. So what I did in order to get into AI product management is I had to learn about what product management is in the first place. So I did a PhD in machine learning and computer science, and I loved the area. I loved the domain. I've always thought I was going to be a software engineer or a data scientist at some big company. But after I joined a big Google, actually, back in 2013, I got to meet a lot of people. I got to interact with people with the title product manager. And I said, I have no idea what you do. What is this? What's happening? And I got to experience firsthand and see how incredibly creative the role is and how you can bring in your technical knowledge into solving user problems by leveraging niche technologies. And I just didn't know that was the thing. So I wanted to find out more. I was at the different ladder at the time. I was fortunate because Google has an internal rotation program where if you want to become a product manager, you can find a manager that's willing to take you on as a rotator, and you can become a product manager for a while, see if you like it, see if it likes you, right? Not everyone is cut out to be a product manager. Not everyone prefers it. Like some people don't know what it is and they want to become product manager. So I wanted to see if there was like a match there. And turns out I fell in love with it. And the product I was working on was fairly technical and heavily based on AI, which is kind of why I chose it. It was aligning very well with my background on the technical side. And after that, I had interviews and I converted to the PM world. And then a few years later, here I am. Now I actually moved to Meta. But yeah, I'm still loving it. AI PM is a fantastic place to be. And as I said, the fact that I was technical and became an AI PM does not mean that people need to be technical to become AI PMs.
Absolutely. I love that. We'll dive into a lot of that. Actually, I did have a 1 year stint also working on AI and machine learning, most
There you go.
recently at LinkedIn Learning. And if you check my profile, I do not have a technical background.
There you
In fact,
go.
I don't really know how to code. But I like to just welcome some of the folks. And Marily, and you will be surprised at how international some of our folks are. Just want to say hello to a few folks. Adil joining us from Toronto, folks from Pittsburgh, Mark from Chile, and then a lot of folks from India, Marilyn from Germany, Egypt. I don't know what time it is in Egypt, and
Oh my
Deborah
God.
from Seattle, folks from Switzerland, Nigeria, New Jersey, a lot of folks from Canada, Portland. Wow,
I see
it's
some Greece as
Friday
well. Greece,
evening
my
if you
my
think
home
about it.
country.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right. Thank you so
Nice.
much, everyone, for your passion and support for our live series. And if you have any question from Arlen, please drop them in the chat and we'll
Yeah.
pick them out from time to time. So make sure you ask your question, be proactive, and yeah. So tell us a little bit more about AI product management. How is it different from other type of product management?
Yeah, and this is the $1 billion question. So traditional product management, here's a definition I have, which I like using. So product manager, that's generally, let's say, helps their team and their company build and ship the right product for their users. So they have a target user persona, they see what they want, they are looking at their pain points and why they cannot achieve what they want, and they solve these problems with various ways. Now, if you're an AI product manager, you're helping your team and your company solve the right problem. Okay. So you're managing the problem, not the product. Okay. This is a bit tricky to understand. But let's say I have a slide usually for generic product management where you can see that the product manager sits right in between business, UX, and engineering. So imagine the AI product manager is actually sitting between business, AI engineering, and then imagine a question mark. Okay. You don't know if there is a product. It's more like a 0 to 1 where there is no user yet. Okay. So you're managing a problem, not a product. And you're hoping that if you solve this problem, you are going to come up with a super cool product. So the questions you need to ask yourself in AI product management is how can you find the best solution to a problem? What is it you want to achieve within 12 months to see if that solution can be converted into something that's going to be meaningful to the users? So how do you begin? How do you create a good speech recognition model or a good vision or perception model? And as you do it within these 12 months, what if another company or another team does it first and they solve this problem first? What happens then? So it's all these very different kind of questions and strategic decisions you need to make. So um, you need to have a generic product area and you have a problem you wanna solve. Um, but it's more on the algorithm side of things, and then you want to make sure this algorithm is leverageable for something that makes sense for the user. I hope this makes
Can you
sense.
give us maybe a couple, one or two example of some of those problems, AI problems, just to help people get a sense?
Yeah, that sounds good. AI problem can be a lot of users have thousands of photos on their library, right? And the question is, okay, is there a way we can actually create an algorithm that can cluster all these photos together? For example, cluster all the dogs and cluster all the cats and cluster all the clouds or anything like this in a way that the user will be able to search by keyword. So am I going to be able to search, okay, pull all the photos that have a cat and myself for me? And then the problem is, okay, can I create a clustering algorithm that's good enough to create the high quality output? And if you can, the question is, would the user use a product like this? And turns out they do. There are so many companies out there, for example, Google Photos, where you can just type in a word and then it's going to cluster all the photos of a dog or a cat or yourself, and it's going to bring it up. That's a simple example. There are more things like speech, which is what I used to work on, where you actually can speak to a device and it can recognize who is speaking, which is the product I was leading for a while.
That's awesome. maybe can you walk us through some key sort of either technical or AI concept just to level set, to give folks an idea of like what are some of the steps you would use in order
Yeah.
to solve problems using AI? And then one user member from UDay asking about how would you measure the value of an AI solution, maybe as part of that framework, if you can walk us through.
Yeah, this is a great question. So imagine AI as an input and an output. So imagine that you have a lot of cat photos and then a lot of dog photos, and that you have a model and you want to tell your model and you want to teach it to recognize which photo has a cat and which photo has a dog. So this is something called supervised learning, where you have a bunch of photos and you have a label. So you say, hey, this is a cat, this is a dog, this is a cat, this is a dog. So you take all these millions of data and you pass it in the program and you train the model to understand what a cat looks like and what a dog looks like. And then at the end of the day, after the model is trained, it's going to have an output. The output is going to be a probability on whether a photo has a cat or a dog. So eventually, you can just give a photo as an input to the model that has no label, and it's going to tell you, yep, I think by 85%, this is likely to be a cat. And now the question for a product manager, which kind of answers the question that you just said, is what is the right quality, which is going to be the minimum acceptable quality for me to launch a product that is leveraging a model? And then it's just interesting from a product perspective because you need to come up with all these things like, okay, maybe we can launch and say, hey, this is still beta. We want to see if the users are liking it. We want to get some preliminary feedback on the entire flow and say, hey, is this going to be meaningful? Is this going to be useful to you? And at the same time, we can spend more time retraining the models in order to keep improving the quality. So it's a lot of steps there, but it's very, very formulated, and it's honestly fun to train a model and give intelligence to it, if that makes sense. Oh, Shavi, you're muted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I just want to touch upon another question
Okay.
that people post, because a lot of the AI and training model, the engineers are working very hard on training the model, labeling, collecting input. What is PM's role in this very technical process? How do we value it as PM?
Yes. So in the classes I teach, I have this diagram which has the different stages of AI product management, and how the role varies as you progress. And it's just very interesting, right? Because in the beginning, you're way more involved and you're way more like, okay, here's what we could do. Here are the use cases we could try to attempt to solve without having a user, right? So it's just you trying to figure things out. And then after you have kind of a goal and you have talked to your research scientists or AI engineers and they know what it is they want to train, what it is they want to test, what algorithm they're going to use and so on, you're kind of more in the background. So you need to kind of cheerlead for the team, if that makes sense. You want to make sure to solve any blockers they have, for example, like headcount or funding, or any blockers for not having enough power to train a lot of models in time. So you kind of become more of a resource manager rather than a product manager for a while. But then after you have your first output and you can actually test a model, this is where you're up your sleeves and you become kind of more of a QA person, and you kind of test the experience and you say, okay, this is not good for the user, this would be good for the user. Here's how we can leverage UX in order to train people on how to use this. Because that's the other challenge for AI. If something is so new, you need to think about from a UX perspective how you're going to train the user to understand what it is, to not be scared of it, and to make the most out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We will move on to talk about how to get into AI product management. But before we close on that, I think a couple related questions
Okay.
to just bring it home. A lot of folks ask about, let's say, because AI is kind of what's happening under the hood, right? How you as a PM try to convince the team about a specific idea you want to test. And I think related to that is, how does the initial product discovery different for AI products versus something, let's say, a consumer facing UI focused products? And then is it better, how do you find that problem and then just kind of formulating a AI solution to support that this is going to help address that problem?
Okay. So many questions. I love them all. So let me let me talk about it. So, in traditional product management, there are so many different ways where you can come up with ideas. For example, you can talk to your current users and say, "Hey, what is it you do not like?" So that I can take this feedback and solve your problems in various ways. In AI product management, there's no user, but there is a generic algorithm. There is a generic area. So you're kind of starting with the algorithm, and you want to see, okay, where could I take this? What kind of problems could this potentially solve? So you're working with your AI folks side by side, hand by hand, and they are the ones that create the flair, if you will, and you take that from a PM perspective and say, oh, okay, this is how I could use this. This is how I could use the other thing. But there is a trap, and it's called the shiny object trap. So AI PMs should not be developing AI products for the sake of the technology. So you should not fall in love with the technology and just create something for the algorithm's sake. And there are so many examples of disaster AI products where people just wanted to see where that goes. So you always need to have this kind of mental model as a PM where, okay, this is the algorithm, this is what I could do. Here's some market data that can validate this. And there's no market data if there's no user, but there are adjacent products that you can look into and you can get data from, or things that are close enough that have already launched by other companies that you can say, okay, this could potentially be an indirect signal. And I am going to give it 3 months until I say, okay, proceed or don't proceed. And it's just, it's really interesting because you're always on your feet on 0 to 1 product development. It's just great.
That's awesome. Would you say AI follow a different product development cycle than a normal product?
Yeah, there are way more challenges. It's not okay, idea, prototype, testing, rollout, and vice versa. That's not what it is. It's more like, okay, research, idea, training, going back to research, idea, training, and then okay, you have something you want to test, you test it, you test the quality, you go back to the beginning. So it's going to take way longer to learn something on AI rather than a generic product. And there are many challenges. For example, you may not be able to have enough data. You you need as a product manager to manage the experimental culture in the team and uncertainty, because you're everyone is kind of working in a bet. So you want to see, okay, this is our 5-year mission and everyone needs to be on board, and you may not have wins for the first months or the first quarters. So you need to keep everyone excited. You need to keep people just accountable for the milestones without them getting discouraged if there isn't enough models or you're not having the impact that you want.
Absolutely. I love that. Now let's transition to second part of our talk, which is
Okay.
talking about how to get into AI product management.
Yeah.
Also, maybe more broadly for people thinking about becoming a PM. Right? Can you share some tips on, is there a special process for AI product management interview? How should people think about paving their way into becoming an AI PM or PM more broadly?
Yes, and that's a great question. And I'm not the person that usually plugs things, but my Maven course is exactly about paving your path in AI product manager, and it starts next week. So I'd love if we can share the link for people interested. But essentially, I see people that used to be engineers and AI engineers that now want to become product managers. So they have the underlying knowledge and they need to forget all the technical details, but they want to learn the PM side of things, like the strategy and how to create roadmaps and so on. So for these folks, things are a bit more straightforward because there are ways to get into product management. There are one-on-one courses, there are books you can read, and so on. For the other folks that have no technical backgrounds and want to become AI product managers, I would say that the best bet would be start with a non-AI product management role so that you can actually master the process, the roadmaps, the strategy, and how to launch products end to end. If you can work on a 0 to 1 product, even better. And then you can apply for an AI product. Then you can kind of move. Then you can work a bit on an AI product and kind of convert to full time. But I feel going straight from a non PM role, non-engineering role to AI product management is a bit trickier. It's possible, but it's trickier. If you want tangible things, I literally would recommend courses on AI, like Coursera has this sort of thing, PM courses as well. And then after you have quite a lot to show, do hackathons, do projects with your friends, create products on the side so that you can have something to showcase that is leveraging AI. It can be something simple, but just when you have your resume, people need to see something that has either the word AI or PM in there, or something that demonstrates your deep passion about the domain. It can be people with math majors that have had a little use case, a little application on AI. So it is possible, but it's tricky, and you need to pave your path in the right way. And I'm happy to help people if they want to reach out to me, if you want to take the course. I can coach you, I can mentor you, anything at all.
That's awesome. And here's the link to
Oh, thank
Marily's
you.
latest Maven course. Also, we in the newsletter recap that we sent out, we'll also include this link so folks can check out if you missed this. So I wanted to ask more about how what are some of the common mistakes or myths that you see people aspiring PN in particular have when they tries to break into product management or AI product management, and in reflection of your own journey, was there things that you feel like you could have done differently that you wish you knew to make this path a little bit more smooth, easier? Like I said, you mentioned about you actually invited people to become a PM first, and then maybe then breaking into AI PM. If you have tips around how to make that first step happen, that's helpful too. And then subsequently going into AI PM.
Yes. This is a great question. Let's see. So in looking back to my journey in the AI PM world, what I would have done differently is I think I would have tried it earlier on. So I told you I was in a different job ladder. That's because I didn't know that there was an AI PM world, and I would have not. I mean, I've learned a lot of things, but I think I would have gone straight to this domain because it's just so great. Now, the question is, well, how would you have done it straight away if you're advising people to first become PMs and then go and do this? I think it doesn't hurt literally reaching out to colleagues and friends that are already in AIPM, asking them if you can work 20% of your time at your current company in a project that's related to AI, just so that you can get your hands dirty and you can kind of learn what that world is about. Even that is going to help you get an idea of the experimental mentality that I talked to you about, the uncertainty, how things that you want to do in the next year may not be valid in like a month, and so on. Tips would be reach out to the community, create a little I call it a pantheon, being Greek and all. So create a pantheon of people that you admire and people that you feel are having the role that you would have loved to have, and just talk to them. Each one may have they may be offering a fellowship, they may be offering an internship, they may be offering specific coaching sessions. You never know. And it's interesting because I was coaching a startup in London, and they were telling me we need AI PMs, but we can't find the right candidate. And I said, well, that's because you're looking for someone that has 10 lines of achievements and 10 lines of things. Just start by getting someone that shows potential, and then get them and then train them from ground up. So if you're just starting, you want to be the person that is going to be trained from ground up. You want to pitch this to the hiring manager or to your team, and it's feasible. Just make sure to demonstrate your passion about AI in some way, and that way you're the only one that can actually define it. Like, why do you love AI? Ask yourselves.
Awesome. I like to just double click on that as well. What do you think are the extra mile that people can go to kind of differentiate themselves in this space, to learn more about AI, to really brand themselves to be able to take on this post when people are expecting 10 qualification, like you said, and especially AI is kind of like a longer development cycle. A lot of things are uncertain. To your point, how can folks go for an extra mile and stand apart from rest of the folks?
Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. There are so many tools that have an actual UI where you can literally drag and drop and train a model yourselves. And I'm happy to provide some links for when the newsletter goes out. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Even if you don't have a PhD, you don't have a CS background, you don't know nothing about AI. Once you start doing it with these online tools, you will be able to say, look, I've trained a model, I've created a speech synthesizer, I know what it takes to do this end to end. Or go to Coursera and gain certifications. That is another great path. I think Stanford University has a great AI specialization so that you can say, look, I've been a traditional PM. I have this specialization. Here's my passion about the space and how I could blend in these two worlds. And then this is enough conviction for some people. So show your passion and get your hands dirty. This is my tip.
Some I like that. That actually applies to any type of job, right? Pivoting into PM or something else. It's showing your passion, leading up to that promise that you're giving to the hiring team. I think we have a couple more folks who are really interested in delving into to learning more about AI.
Amazing.
Um, one member mentioned about how does the career growth trajectory looks like for an AI PM, especially when the development cycle is long. Sometimes it takes some time to show results. How do you stay on track and continue to drive impact?
Yeah, and this is such a good question. It's the $1 million question. This goes back to what I said about the uncertainty and the experimental culture. So the team needs to work very, very closely with HR and their senior leadership in order to come up with ways to show impact. And usually, you see there is a timeline, and the timeline has some milestones. So you can say, okay, in month one, we need to have trained X amount of models. We need to have reached at least this quality. Even if it's something you cannot launch, showing that you have done the groundwork and the effort in order to keep moving things forward based on a roadmap is what shows impact. So you're actually taking baby steps towards being able to achieve what your algorithm is meant to do.
Awesome. I like to ask also a subsequent question
Okay.
around oh, put myself on the screen as well.
Yeah.
Um, so, if AI is ever evolving, a lot of things are uncertain. How do you make sure that you can always drive and determine that vision? And like you said, sometimes competitors might be coming in sooner than you. Is that always a moving target? How do you find the focal point to continue to drive that vision, to shape that vision, or update that vision based on
Mhm.
competitive reaction and market response?
Yep, another curse and a blessing. You always need to stay ahead and you always need to see what's going on in the world. And there is a lot of attending conferences and reading academic papers and getting into the weeds to be able to understand what is happening. Now, it is a moving target. The roadmap you may have created on day one in a month or even in 2 weeks may be completely nonsense and it may not make any sense. Now, you need to be aware of that and you need to create a roadmap that is, I don't want to say generic enough, but broad enough to be able to cover these little shifts. So when I've done it in the past, I think the annual roadmap may have changed a bit, but the next 2 quarters haven't. So um, it still will be, look, this is the broad area, this is what we want to achieve, this is kind of what we think we're going to do, but we you can pivot. And what is helpful there is that you need to tell your team from day one that, hey, things may change, we may be pivoting quickly. If you're the type of person that does not want to pivot at all, that wants to that doesn't like uncertainty in any way, then this may not be the right team for you. But you're okay to welcome and acknowledge this, then this is a moving target. And let's just hop on the boat and see what comes out of it.
Awesome. We're almost coming up at time. So I like to wrap up with one main question and then
Okay.
a lightning round of question. So Marlene, you are mother of two. And I remember seeing you posting recently on LinkedIn and Instagram about how you were 8 months pregnant and then filming a Google film. And that was very, very, very inspiring. So, for folks who are joining us today, especially women or from underrepresented groups, what are some ways that you recommend folks to take charge of their career?
This is a great question. It is what I would tell myself a few years ago. I would tell myself to get out of my head and not think that I cannot achieve something because of the situation I am in, because of my gender, or because of, my accent or anything like this. So if you want to achieve something, then it's up to you to achieve it. You should compare yourself to yourself every year, not yourself to anyone else. And if opportunity comes in, just grab it and run with it. So yes, I was 8 months pregnant, and someone said, "Well, do you want to film an official video about for Google?" And I said, "Yep, I definitely do, but you need to have a chair because I need to be sat when I do it." And they said, "Yep, that's totally fine. Let's do it." So I think that's it. And if anyone tells you otherwise, that you shouldn't or couldn't, just call them out and say, "Well, watch me and see how I am going to achieve my dreams." So.
Yeah, I love that. I love that example. That's why I want to share with folks. Now we're coming up at time, and I like to finish with a lightning round of question. Are
Okay.
you ready for this
Oh,
challenge?
oh God. Okay, let's do it. I thought we were done. Okay, go for it.
Drum roll. Okay, what is your current favorite product and why?
I like my Nintendo Switch because I've had it for a couple of years now, but it's still new games keep coming out. And my favorite game ever, called Monkey Island from like the 80s, just came out yesterday, and I haven't slept at all. I don't know if you can see because I've been playing it. So I love Nintendo Switch because of the aspect of, new games coming in. You can kind of share them with your friends and so on. And it's just such a fun little platform. You can kind of take out the controllers. It's just the best device ever. So Nintendo Switch is my
That's
favorite
awesome.
right now.
Awesome. We have a lot of folks I'm sure are gamers. We have former speakers who also were gamers. So that's great. Who would you say is your product role model or someone who's been very influential in your product career?
I think it's Deb Lu, and I actually saw that you have she's going to be talking as part of your series. She's incredible. I was honored when she talked to me about a question I had. So she's fantastic. I hope to be her one day.
That's awesome. And for those who don't know W, in case you don't know, she's the CEO and president of Ancestry, former VP of product at Facebook, and the creator of Facebook Marketplace, which I know a lot of you know. And if you want to join her session's on December 16th. Make sure you go to my profile, check out the PM Learning Series, and sign up. There's also a special after party for folks who are able to stay. Marlon, are you still there with us
Yes,
for
yes, I'm
one
here.
final question?
All right.
What is one parting advice or final piece of resource advice? We know about your course. We'll paste that in the newsletter. What else would you advise our current or aspiring PM to do to level up their product career?
hmm Sometimes you may not get it right on day one, but if you stick with it, you are gonna make it right. There may be a company and you may fail the interviews twice or three times. You're gonna get in the fourth time, and guess what? After you're in, you're not gonna care how many times you failed. So stick with it. Believe in yourself, even if other people say that you shouldn't or you couldn't. It's up to you, and only you to prove it to yourself. So
I love that. And Marlon, thank you so much for spending time with us. I think a lot of our folks really enjoy your session.
thank you.
It's very, a lot of great insight, fantastic session, really inspiring and very, very informative. So thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation. And please connect with me. I'm happy to connect with aspiring PMs always.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. See you in
Bye-bye.
next episode.
Yay.